Thank you guys for taking the time to hop on. Been a harrowing start to the year for many, but I loved seeing on Instagram was like the first time I became aware of what you guys were doing. And so many people started sending it to me, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And what a way to leverage our community and production people who are always like can thrive in chaos and to rise to the challenge to support so much of our community that was impacted by the fires. And so I would love to just take it back to like how you guys met and your journey to creating Zello, and then what you guys maybe want the company to be or what the goal was when you launched, and then how you quickly had to pivot into clearly supporting our community.
Well, so in the production, I'll give you that background because I think it's helpful with bringing the production background into where did that happen? Where did this guy show up from?
Yeah.
So I grew up kind of quick, grew up in Burbank, but I got my income tax license right out of high school because college wasn't really in my cards.
What is that? What is an income tax license, and how do you even think to get one of those?
You go to H&R Block, and it was $300 at the time, right here in Burbank on Magnolia, and for $300 you could become a licensed tax preparer, and then you get a job doing income taxes, preparing income taxes for people. So simple ones like just a single W-2 or and you go on, you do it, and it was $12 an hour at the time, and I thought that was way better than minimum wage. I think was $5.50, so that was big. Whoa. But my first year doing income taxes, a kid came in who was a year older than me, and he was a little gruff, tattoos, some piercings, and he hands me a stack of W-2s. And I added up real quick on my 10-key. He made $107,000 at 19 years old. I'm like, man, I'm making $12 an hour. What do you do? He says, I drive a Honeywagon. I'm like, what's a Honeywagon? So he says it's this mobile restroom truck and changing rooms that's used on movie sets. Well, my life goal that day was to become a Honeywagon driver. So I hounded him every single day. Please introduce me to your boss. Please introduce me to your boss. And about 3 months later, he did, and I told his boss, look, I'll work for you for free. I'll wash, clean, deliver, whatever it takes. But just when there's an opportunity for me to drive one of these Honeywagons, let me do it. And I told this to the wrong person. He had me delivering horses to Oregon for free, boats to Texas, took full advantage of a young kid. But ultimately, I got to show up on my first movie set. It was called Rodeo Girl at Disney Ranch. And I was the happiest go lucky bathroom cleaner that Hollywood had ever seen. And this is way before COVID, but I would clean it after every single use. I just wanted it perfect, right? And I worked my way up from driving the Honeywagon to becoming a transportation captain, and then ultimately an accountant who I became friends with brought me under their wing and taught me movie magic. And I got involved in creating the budget and then hiring the crew and hiring the equipment from a logistical standpoint as a transportation coordinator. And my career kept kind of growing. It started out at $1 million movies, then $3 million, then $10 million, 30, and then $100 million plus movies. For Warner Brothers, we did Birds of Prey and Space Jam with LeBron and King Richard with Will Smith, and had a full career. So my IMDb, I did over 100 different shows in that capacity. Wow. From 2005 to 2020. That was my daytime job. My nighttime job, going back to 2007, was I started a company called Zio with 3 trucks in the same day, $500 at each dealership before it showed up on my credit because I didn't have any money and I didn't really have a real job. I got to drive a Honeywagon once in a while.
Right.
And so sink or swim, $2,400 in car payments, and I would rent out these trucks on the shows that I was working on. And the great financial crisis hit, so there was no more loans at that point. And so I'd save up money and buy another truck and another truck and another truck. By 2015, we got to 125 vehicles.
Wow.
And a competitor, a big vendor in LA, which I'll get to the name of that company, tried to buy me. And it was the first time I didn't know that you could buy companies. I thought you had to buy one truck at a time. And so I was introduced to a term M&A, mergers and acquisitions, and I found out that there's a LOI and what that meant and quality of earnings analysis and all these technical terms about how you would buy and sell a company. And I got really infatuated with this concept. And we got through the process, and they were offering me $5.5 million, and I was in my late 20s at that time. And it was a really hard decision I've been broke my whole life. Like, this was big money.
A lot of money.
And
yeah.
but I'm like, I don't think it's the right move. Like, I got to try this new skill out. So from 2016, I told them no. And from 2016 to 2021, we acquired 13 other companies, becoming the largest production logistics company in Hollywood. And it was called Zio Studio Services. And one of the big acquisitions that we did was Studio Services, which had been the main truck vendor for about 40 years. So that doubled our size. And that was super scary at the time for me. Like, we're betting everything. Like, I went down to like $3,000 in my bank account to make that happen. Nobody knew that at the time, but it was scary.
The little guy, quote unquote, who's like, I'm going to wait to sell my company. And then you're going to go acquire the guys that have been like that, you know, been doing the business for much longer than you have. That's just boss.
Yeah. And so then COVID hit, and that was a whole story. Like, our revenue, our burn rate when COVID hit was about $1.5 million a month at Zio, with keeping everybody employed and the rent and the facilities and all that stuff. And revenue went to zero. And that was super scary. But as we fast forward to the Zello Support initiative, that was the first time we brought Hollywood together. Is we offered our entire fleet on March 19th, 2020, publicly to the medical community for free, which was over 500 vehicles at the time. And we partnered with USC Keck, and we were doing medical base camps so that doctors and nurses had a place to shower in the 2 rooms in the singles before going home to their families. Like, that was super early on. And then we paired Teamsters with 5 tons to move medical equipment. Like, N95s were big at that time, and toilet paper was very sought after at that moment, and all of those things. But I never thought that we would ever reflex that muscle of getting Hollywood involved to help relieve pressure. But at the time, the idea was, if we could help the community get back together, then the industry would get back to work sooner, right? And everybody would thrive. So anyway, we got through COVID, and we were working on a large acquisition called Star Wagons in early 2021. And I was ready to go bet the farm again and take on a really big acquisition, and that would double the size of Zio again. And ultimately, in the final stages of that, another company reached out, this company called Sunset Studios and Hudson Pacific Properties in Blackstone. And they said they had a representative that used to lead strategy for Disney. They headhunted to oversee their studio investments. And he reached out and he said, look, we love what you're doing. What if we acquire Zio and provide the capital to acquire Star Wagons, and you become the president of our organization, Sunset Studios? And that ultimately ended up happening in August of 21. We closed, they bought Zio. I became the president of their studio. And 2 weeks later, we bought Star Wagons. And 1 year later, we bought that company that was trying to buy me in 2015, which was Quixote. And then my job was to integrate all of those into one company. I went and I did that, and we took four organizational charts, 4 insurance policies, 4 accounting, 4 invoice, you name it. There's 4 of them at least. Bring it all together and into one leadership team and organization. And so I stayed there for my 3-year commitment and a little bit longer. And spring break this last year is when that chapter officially closed, and I threw a thank you party in May, which it was over 300 people of industry leaders and just all the producers, everybody that's really been impactful. I'd say it's like the top 3% of my phone log, right? Of those people like who have really been instrumental.
What was that like at that moment, to go from the kid who just was like, let me go be a Honeywagon driver, to then like kind of taking over a huge part of the business that a lot of people don't think about when they think about making movies, but like to go from that in a matter of 20 years.
20 years, yeah. Makes me feel old. That's crazy. 20 years. I'm supposed to be the kid.
Yeah, but you started very young.
I did. I started young.
Yeah, but that's an incredible thing to accomplish. So just like, I hope you
Yeah. This whole next chapter is really, it's beyond imagination. Like, everything at this point is really sprinkles. Like, it's, when I set out, I was like, oh, if I could be just a transpo coordinator that people hired, like, that would be amazing. Everything else, just, it's been unreal for sure. And what's exciting is there's so much more to do.
Yeah.
And so through the thank you party in May, and then over summer was really spending time with the family and those types of things, and like really thinking about what's next, trying to figure out what that is. And it's really hard to explain exactly where the direction we were going. Like, I was struggling with, how do I word it the right way? Because really what the future of Zello, what it's going to be, is it's unique to my background, especially, is I come from production, right? Coming up the ranks of production. So I have the production community as friends and family. If I like, these are my people, like that's my background. That's where I've spent the last 20 years of my life, but also the entrepreneurial community. And then after the acquisition, I learned the institutional and the Wall Street side of things and how that works. And, the Campbell Hall community and all these communities coming together. It's like the connective tissue behind all these worlds: real estate, business, entertainment, community. And that's really what Zello is it's a connective tissue between these worlds. So if Zello is actually a community of people, where that's the goal at some point, that people could come and interact, meet somebody new that they otherwise wouldn't meet, but can add tremendous value. And how did that come to play here is you see it in live time, how quick this initiative with Zello Support took real estate. It took the business mind to put these pieces together. We had to set up a nonprofit. We had to get insurance in place. We had to come to an agreement with the Teamsters, with IATSE. We had to negotiate with, the different leaders of these major studios and bring all of that together. And if you can do that in a way of bring very talented people together, remove the red tape, magic happens, and it happens really fast.
And there's no one who can move as quickly as people who came up in production. Truly,
exactly.
Right? Yeah. Like we can make shit happen in 24 hours if needed. It's wild.
And also with production is we get the experience. Like, I've been at Netflix, I've been at Disney, I've been at Warner Brothers, and all of these different things. And at Sunset is these places, they're large organizations, and it just takes time to do things. So when this all came to be, that Wednesday morning that Ashlyn, who's our chief of staff here, called, and she said, "Louis, I don't know what to do. We've lost everything." And she's bawling, crying on the phone. It was that Wednesday morning, and it's 9 a.m. We don't have power in our house, and she's crying. And I'm like, "Where are you?" And she's like, "I'm on the side of the road in Sun Valley." And so instantly I jumped in my truck and I drove to her. Fine. This person's been the glue of like everything we've done, from Zio to Sunset to Quixote to all of these transitions. Is, she's lost everything. And she's sitting in the car with her daughters. And while I was driving there, they also found out that their school had burnt down. And so when I arrived, the kids are like almost hyperventilating, like not breathing. And it's the saddest scene. It's not one of it is the saddest scene that I ever arrived to, and they're processing all kinds of levels of fears. Safety, my home is gone, all my toys are gone, my community is gone, my friends, am I ever going to see my schoolmates again? Because the school is gone. Yeah. It's too much for like anyone, let alone, a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. And so it was a lot. So I stayed with them and just kind of hugged and fell in the arms. And when I left about an hour later, I'm like, we need to find her a place to live. So that was where I jump into tactical mode at that point. And it's like, okay, let's get her a place. Let's get them. They need food. They need clothes. They need, some toys. And so it became a whole family event. My wife jumped in. My daughter's picking out stuff at Target. My brother's cooking them dinner. And by the end of that night, we got them into a place here in Burbank, and they were good. But when the head hit the pillow that night, that's one family. There's 18,000 structures gone. Yeah. Like, what can we do? Like, who cares about starting a company right now? Like, the community needs us. Let's figure this out. That's what's needed. And so my brain started running. Okay, resources. We've got the relationships in the entertainment world. We happen to be closing escrow on the building we're sitting in. We didn't even own it that Wednesday. It wasn't going to close till the next Tuesday, but I'm like, okay, well, that's centrally located. That could be a hub. We've got great relationships with the Teamsters, with the IATSE. Okay, so if we could unlock furniture from the majors, get them to open up their archives, the gently used furniture, donate it, we'll provide a centrally located showroom. We'll schedule shopping experiences for families who lost their homes to come through and shop and pick out what they need, paired with a set decorator to pick out so it's aesthetically pleasing. You get to walk around and see it. And then it's loaded into a truck with a volunteer Teamster and delivered to their house. And then let's just pick that up and increase the velocity as much as we can. And so this is starting to come clear by like Friday. I think I texted John Pollak. This is where John comes in that Friday night. Here's where my head's at. And John's like, I'm in. And I'm like, awesome. And so our daughters are in the same class together is really how our relationship, and of course the entertainment background, but right away jumped is in. And then we started bringing together really talented people and did exactly what we're talking about is, okay, no, we're going to do something completely crazy. We're going to launch a nonprofit. We want to start serving families next week. We're closing. We need to do demo. We need to gut all the tellers out of, this was a Bank of America, get rid of all the tellers. And it was just straight chaos. But it was about a week from Ashlyn losing her home to being a standing nonprofit with insurance in place and families going through doing shopping experience.
And don't forget who the first family was. It was Ashlyn.
Wow.
And so seeing the emotion flow through that was just unreal. But before we even get to the first family coming through, is the amount of fear that, look, I've grown companies. I've taken on really complex productions. This by far had a level of fear that I've never had to process before. You're asking the community, right? From all the executives around town at these studios to line producers to talent to the set decorators, the drivers, set dressers, everyone coming in to play and to come forward with this initiative. And it's completely outside of control. We're making a promise that we're going to go do this. And we announced it very, very quickly what we're doing. And that fear of like, there's no world where anybody could pay for all this to happen. Like it's outside of your control. And you're sitting there powerless with, will the community show up? And in true Hollywood fashion, the community showed up at a level that you just cannot believe. You'll feel the energy walking around, but everyone's so in it and so passionate. I mean, John jumped up and responded to over 1,500 families personally. It's just been...
It's incredible. I think the fact that so many people came together as quickly as they did is really a testament to the relationships that all of us have built over the last 20 plus years. It's not just a handful. It's everybody collectively said, I know somebody at Universal and I know somebody over at this prop house and I'm going to call this Teamster, and just people were just motivated to help. And it came together so fast. I mean, that's the crazy thing. Within 1 week of Ashlyn losing her home to like being here with furniture ready for her to walk in, that only happens in production. It doesn't happen in any other industry that it could pull together that quickly.
Yeah. It's just been unreal. And one of my favorite thing about production background is like when somebody says, we can have a conversation, right? It doesn't matter if I'm talking to the construction coordinator on a set, the prop master, or the location manager. If we have a conversation about something that needs to happen 2 Fridays from now at 4:30 a.m., we never need to have another conversation about it. And it happens. I mean, that is the special magic in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Go try that with your contractor at home.
Go try with anybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's really rough. Yeah. There's just a resilience and a commitment to the team, the collaborative nature that is filmmaking, that is creating anything, that it's like everybody who's worked production understands you have this like very limited time, a pressure cooker situation to deliver, and you all have to show up. It's an ecosystem. And if people start dropping the ball, everybody suffers. And everybody's been on shows in their life where they've had that, whether they've dropped the ball and others have suffered for whatever personal reasons, or on the receiving end of that. So I think we all know that if you don't show up at 4:30 2 weeks from now, what that costs to everybody, right? I would like to say that us production folk are like, you know, we're the circus. We're like we're constantly popping up wherever. You could like drop any production person anywhere in the world, and within a very insane amount of time, they could figure out how to do anything they need to do to survive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I love the choice of word you use there, ecosystem. So like if this place can become a living ecosystem, a local watering hole that lives at the center of the entertainment community, but to where you come in and ideas, complex ideas, and get really talented people together and just remove that red tape is with the Hollywood mindset of anything is possible.
Yeah.
We can make it happen. We can make it happen quickly. Just remove all the BS, all the red tape. Let's just get in a room with a whiteboard. Like, we don't need to schedule a meeting for 2 weeks from now at 11:15 a.m. No, just pick up the phone. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Come over.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
And we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's where all the conversations with all the studios and all the major players that we've been talking to, that exact conversation was, we would love to help. We would love to do that. But we just don't have the ability to move that quickly, or we'd have to have a meeting about it, too much red tape. And they're like, you do it for us.
one of the things that became very, very clear here is there's two types of people that come to the occasion. When an event this powerful happens and this impactful, there's this population, which is the majority by far. Okay. I'd say it's like 99% of people are really good. That's what I believe. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That show up and they just operate with their heart and they do, how can I help? Boom. They're in, let's go.
Yeah.
And then there's this other population that's what's in it for me. And that is just like, I just don't understand. Like it's a massive disconnect.
Yeah.
Like who are you? But those little token, like that little piece of information sticks in your brain. Like I don't forget things. Like production people don't forget, right?
No, we don't.
And so I'll remember that forever. Those little sly comments, and like I just can't stand that mentality. Yeah. It's very frustrating.
Well, and I think actually for all the volunteers downstairs have had that mentality of how can I help? What can I do? What can I do for others? And now that we're at this point of helping all these families and helping this town, we want this town to help Hollywood. We want to get productions back. We want to get those people who are here volunteering their time. I mean, we're talking to people that haven't left in 3 weeks. I think they live here. Like they're nonstop. We want to get them working again. So getting productions back here and relying on those people that we're helping now to help us back, it's necessary.
And one other thing on that is some of these individuals who are here, I mean, John's not making things up. They're here for weeks straight, every single day, helping families rebuild their lives. And some of these individuals haven't worked in over a year.
Yeah.
They don't have health care right now because their hours have ran out. And yet they're helping, somebody in the Palisades who's trying to refill their house with 6 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Right. A furniture.
It's wild, right?
I mean, it is,
Mm-hmm.
it's wild to see.
And that's where that whole idea of us giving back, it's with the hope that in turn, this country, this state, this Hollywood will turn back to everyone else and say, we're here to help. Well, you've done this for us. Now let us get productions back. Let's get you back working. Let's find an opportunity to get you back on set and doing what you do best.
There was a great article in the Hollywood Reporter that came out talking about just how Hollywood is coming together. And this is one initiative, and there's a lot of really good initiatives of, the Hollywood crews and teams coming together with great ideas to help and to give back and to mobilize very quickly. But if you hear, and they're not just protecting their own, it's not about Hollywood, we're helping everybody. We're helping the community because that's the right thing to do. This town needs some love. We do need to bring these jobs back. Like the production industry is wounded and it's hurting and it's devastating. But I'm personally very excited. I think that we got I think the world is going to notice this. I hope they do. And not just what we're doing, but that Hollywood needs to be Hollywood and long into the future, and that these jobs, will be back in LA. And I'm very, very bullish on the future of entertainment. Yeah. This is, there's no manufacturing movies and TV shows. I don't believe in that. This is art, and you can't turn it into some widget making, no matter how many people try to do that.
Yep.
The key ingredient is art, and it's these talented individuals, whether they're the set decorators, the set dressers, or, the director themselves. This is art that's being made. So that's what I'm excited to see at Hollywood get back to making art, not just let's churn out as much stuff as we possibly can, as cheap as we can.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see that come to life.
And especially with the next iteration of Zello and Zello Entertainment, like that ability to bring all these people together, all these communities together under one roof to help make content, to get productions back here, to do all the things that we know can be done here in a way that we've already functioned nimbly, effectively, and with the whole support of the community.
We did this in this right now. The highest and best use of Zello is in this philanthropic effort, right? Is how do we give, which is amazing. But you can also take that same formula of bringing very smart people together, removing that same red tape, and literally watching magic happen. And this is going to be a central watering hole where brands can interact with production executives, with creatives, with talent, with bringing in some IP. And just no rules. Let's see. Let's figure out what we can do.
Yeah, I think what's exciting, and we've been in such a volatile period of our industry, and certainly everything that you guys have talked about only compounds that. But it's almost like we can only go up from here, And I believe that it's rife with opportunity. And as long as we can collectively keep our heads together and be able to to fill back this community that has given so much. I think it's so important. And as someone who, I'm sort of a unicorn because I've been working for almost 20 years in LA, but almost every film I've done has been in LA, so I love it here, and I know how it is possible to make movies here, and a lot of people love to see the challenges, but I think now more than ever, it's time to figure out, it's like a social responsibility we have to our community at large, but certainly the filmmaking community, of how do we go the extra mile as producers, as executives, as financiers, to really figure out how to keep it here, even if it doesn't make the most financial sense for a return, because that's how you invest back into the workforce, and I know there's a lot of conversations that some of the studios, a lot of my physical production exec friends, and really vying for this, and bigger studios that never even shoot here because it doesn't make financial sense for them. It's like, well, that is a way you can just give back. Just keep shows here. Employ people. Give them health insurance. It's not that hard. It may cost you a couple extra mil. Sorry. But it's going to take years to rebuild. And I think if we don't put that energy back into it at this moment in time, it does concern me what does become of everyone, because we've been through it, and everyone needs just like a resurgence of positivity and possibility, and who better to give it than Hollywood. So I hope that everyone is coming together, and I do see it happening, but I don't want it to feel just like a slice of time moment, because this is going to be years. It's a marathon that we're in, and I think that we need everybody to show up. So
yeah, it's bigger. I like what you said there, that you're a unicorn. You are a unicorn, and you're one of one. It's not because all your movies have been here or your projects have been here, but you yourself are one of one, and that's why the logo of this building and this initiative is a unicorn, because every single person here is unique. It's one of one. There's not one of 10, and that's Hollywood.
Yeah.
Every single person is so individualized, and every person is important. These are not numbers. They're not, number employee 692.
Right.
And that's got to change. That's not the way we think about Hollywood, and that's not the way it works. And so really excited to get the human element fully back into this ecosystem and see it go back onto the tracks. One thing, going back for a second, is the other piece was when we were having these conversations with different studio executives and sharing the initiative, when you're having the Zoom or the conversation one-on-one with the individuals, the different production executives, or, the president of a studio or the chairman of one of these major studios, is right away, you can tell their heart's in the right place, and they start, most start crying about the initiative, especially early on.
Yeah.
And they want to do what's right, and they're all in. And then you also see that very next, 30 seconds later, you can see their brain start running all the approvals and all the meetings and all the legal and all the setting up a meeting to have a meeting about a meeting that's coming down the pipe. Yeah. And it's like, well, we're gonna figure it out. But you also see that in lifetime. It's like, we gotta get rid of that. And so,
and we'll say, to that point, those people, we've talked to the highest level executives at all the studios. They've all come through. They've all said, we'll figure this out for you. Let us have those meetings, have meetings, but we'll get this done. And you know what? They did. They all came through.
Yeah.
And that I think alone, the people we spoke to about this picked up the phone right away and said, you got our support. Let us figure out the logistics from our side, but we're going to help you out.
Yeah.
And that to me, that blew us away.
Yeah.
It's unprecedented. I don't know. I certainly haven't been around long enough in the history of Hollywood to see Hollywood come together in a way like this before. But I'm grateful that we get to be living it and get to be a part of this chapter in our history and helping us thrive. So
yeah. Well, like I said, when in 2020, this was a very similar playbook. I never thought that we would use those muscles again, right?
Yeah.
And here we are,
5
years later, completely different event. It's not a pandemic, it's a fire. But this time, we put in the legwork and we built the foundation for Zello Support. This will be long-standing, long into the future. It's not going anywhere. And it'll be the volume, just like a production. We could turn it down and it'll be here. But when this town needs us, we'll crank that volume on full blast, and we believe that the community will show up and make a huge difference.
100%. Well, thank you guys so much. This is so cool. I'm just so
You.
proud and honored to know you and be among you and be a part of what I always like to say is like a pebble, to make the tsunami, that all of us are required to do our parts and whatever lanes we occupy to help the health of this industry. It's something that I'm really passionate about. It's why I have this podcast, is to be able to create conversations like this and be a conduit and just give people a dose of inspiration and remind them that they're not alone, that they're support. So.
Well, hopefully some of the new leadership team in the East Coast and that big White House will hear some of your podcasts one day and really, put in some, love them or hate them or whatever the space is. That's not what it's about. But what we do need is we need to make sure that all of the production really stays in the country.
I agree.
And support our own.
Yep. Likewise.